Everyone, I'm the Canadian lad, and I just finished watching WandaVision's 5th episode at 0.25x speed. And boy, the way they ended this episode. Anyway, first things first, I'm gonna break down scene by scene, so spoiler warning right there. But before I begin, I would like to thank today's sponsor, CuriosityStream. Lads, I love watching documentaries as much as I like watching superhero movies at 0.25x speed. It's sometimes nice to wind down to a documentary where I can expand my knowledge on a variety of topics. Luckily, with CuriosityStream, I have access to thousands of documentaries and non-fiction shows in a variety of topics from history, science, technology, travel, and so much more. Personally, I love watching nature and food documentaries. CuriosityStream is super easy to use. You can download the app onto any device or simply log in from your browser. There are 35 collections of curated programs handpicked by the experts at CuriosityStream, including award-winning exclusives and originals, so you can easily find exactly what interests you. Right now, you can save big on an annual subscription if you use my code TheCanadianLad to sign up. It's just $40.99 for the whole year. So why not learn about something new by clicking the link in description to try CuriosityStream today. Today's episode begins by showing us how Wanda and Vision are both struggling to take care of their twins. But notice Wanda looks much more exhausted than Vision, probably because Vision is only having to take care of his babies, while Wanda is literally dealing with the entire reality inside this town. And when she finally runs out of patience, she tries to use her powers to stop the twins from crying, but surprisingly that doesn't work. It gets established that Wanda does not have complete control over her kids. They grow without her permission, they do stuff without her knowing, and most importantly, they're kind of developing their own sets of powers already. With Wanda failing to calm down the babies actually start laughing at her, to which Wanda gives a very creepy response.
Why won't you do what I want?
Why won't you do what I want? This is like Wanda talking to everybody in the town. Wanda tells Vision that maybe they both need help from someone else to take care of their twins. And exactly that moment, Agnes rings the doorbell. It's like whatever Wanda wishes to happen happens almost immediately. But here comes the first WTF moment in this episode. Vision is possessive about letting Agnes hold his twins, so he tries to politely stop her from doing so. And out of nowhere, we kinda lose the sitcom vibe, and it goes all serious because Vision didn't follow the script. So Agnes asks Wanda if she should take it again.
Do you want me to take that again?
This essentially means Agnes is not a regular resident of Westview, and she does know that it's all fake. She knows that whenever something goes against the wish of Wanda, she just simply rewinds the time. So that's why Agnes asked Wanda if she should start from the beginning. Wanda of course handles the situation by totally ignoring what just happened, but Vision did take a notice of this weird conversation, and notice the moment Agnes asked Wanda if she should do it again, exactly that moment the twins stopped crying. So when Agnes wasn't pretending, the twins weren't crying, but as soon as she starts laughing, the twins began to cry.
I'm gonna take that again.
The twins finally stop crying, but Wanda and Vision see that the twins aren't even in their crib at all, only to find that they have now jumped 5 years ahead. But keep in mind this happened in front of Agnes. She saw that within a few minutes, Wanda's twins grew 5 years in real time, but despite that, she didn't react at all. In fact, she took it better than Wanda and Vision, almost as if she knew these babies are gonna grow old now. Throughout the entirety of this episode, it seems that the twins have the power to age themselves at will, first from babies to 5-year-olds, and later from 5-year to 10-year-olds. It also seems like they're aware of their powers, and that Wanda used her powers to bring their father back to life. Now notice, because the babies jumped 5 years, so Wanda celebrates their birthdays with a cake that has all the years together. And then we see the intro, and the lyrics playing in the intro music is just a reflection of what Wanda has gone through and is preparing to do. It says, "Forces may try to pull us apart. We're making it up as we go along. Through the highs and the lows, we'll be right, we'll be wrong. We're making it up as we go along. And there will be days we won't know which way to go, but we will take it higher. You're all I desire." This theme song borrows heavily from the classic 80s sitcom Family Ties and Growing Pains. Interestingly, Growing Pains had a spin-off, Just the 10 of Us, which starred WandaVision's director Matt Shakman. Then we come back to the real world. Monica Rambeau is now being tested for any clues that could help SWORD prevent Wanda from doing so. Monica says she tried, but she couldn't resist when she was inside Wanda's reality. She felt pain like she was drowning. She then meets Darcy for the first time, who apparently is she's a fan of Monica. But notice Monica's test results. She doesn't show up on x-rays and they can't identify her blood. She seems to be aware of it too. Maybe she already has her powers, because remember, in the comic she even took the mantle of Captain Marvel. Director Hayward is now planning on how to deal with this problem now that he has first-person intel. This scene confirms what we have been speculating since last week's episode. Wanda actually stole the corpse of the Vision. She stormed into Sword's building and stole his body pretty easily. But by doing so, she not only broke the Sokovia Accords, but also Vision's own will, because Vision must have said during the time when he was alive that he does not want to live only to be used as a weapon by somebody else. And that is exactly what Wanda seems to be doing with him. So according to this episode, Wanda quite literally has the Vision's physical body, which we saw in the previous episode, and is reanimating it as she goes forward. Agent Wu then says Wanda was born in 1989.
Born in Sokovia in 1989 to Irina and Oleg Maximov.
We also come to know her parents' actual name for the very first time in the MCU. But notice the screen that has all the details about Wanda says she was born in 1988, not 89 like Agent Wu just said. Director Hayward also mentions Germany and Lagos. Germany is where Wanda went against the Sokovia Accords and fought the other half of the Avengers, and Lagos is why the Sokovia Accords exist in the first place. In Civil War, Wanda along with Captain America was in Lagos, Nigeria, and there she accidentally took the life of many civilians while trying to save Steve Rogers. So it was a mess that she didn't mean to make. And remember how Agent Wu was asking all the questions that we as an audience had? In this episode, he did it again.
But how did she even do it? Bring him back without the Mind Stone?
Who knows?
Then Billy and Tommy find a dog outside their house.
Can we keep him crying alone?
Wanda and Vision both say that keeping a dog is a responsibility, and they're too young to be doing that. But surprisingly, Agnes comes with the doghouse, just like Vision suspected. All of this are slowly making Vision realize there's something wrong here, especially with Agnes, who seems to have all the answers even to the questions they didn't ask. Now notice the dog actively tried to kill itself by leaking the power socket and then eating some poisonous leaves. So what if Agnes killed the dog to try manipulate Wanda into bringing it back? Agnes knew that if the dog dies, Wanda's children will be sad, and will ask her to bring it back to life. So perhaps Agnes is trying to see if Wanda can really bring someone back from the dead, just like she did with Vision. Maybe Agnes needs to bring someone back too. Maybe it's her husband, who we haven't seen anywhere in the show yet. But here's where it gets interesting. In the comic, Vision's wife kills Sparky by feeding him the leaves of Wundagore Bloom, which allows her to see the future through scrying. And that plant comes from Mount Wundagore, which is Agatha Harkness's home. And in the show, Sparky dies by eating one of Agnes's azaleas. On the other hand, Monica, Darcy, and Agent Wu discover that Wanda is literally rewriting reality. It's not an illusion. They found it by testing the uniform Monica was wearing when she got kicked out of Wanda's reality. Even though her costume is like any other costume from the 70s, but it was 87% Kevlar. So this original uniform, which is a bulletproof vest that Monica was wearing when she got sucked into Wanda's world, just changed its shapes and sizes. But the original fabric and content remain the same. It still works as a bulletproof vest, just that it looks different so that it matches with 70s fashion. So all the props, clothing, and whatever's inside Westview are not an illusion. Wanda does not have the power to make something out of nothing. She still needs something in order to create something else. But Monica argues that she does have that ability because she almost took down Thanos all by herself. And that's where this happens.
Well, I'd argue that Captain Marvel came close.
We are not talking about her, we are talking about Wanda.
So this sudden change of tone in Monica's voice as well as the looks on her face indicates that she has a no love-lost relationship with Captain Marvel. Perhaps she blames her for Thanos' snap, for not being able to stop him, because getting vanished was the reason she couldn't say goodbye to her mother. Vision then finally gets to know what is really happening inside Westview. He understands that Wanda is inside everyone's head, and is compelling them into doing things she wants. But I think Marvel is distracting us here. I mean, the way this episode was designed, it's normal to think that Norm was referring to Wanda when he said this.
You have to stop her. She's in my head. Make her stop!
But notice he kept saying she is doing this. Stop her. She is inside my head. He only says she and doesn't take any name. So even though it does look like he's talking about Wanda, but I really feel he's talking about Agnes here. And notice when Vision sets Norm free of Wanda's magic, he puts his hand on the side of Norm's forehead. This is exactly where Billy put his hand when he told the dog to speak.
Good dog. Speak.
Another detail I found from this scene is something we saw in the trailer. Look at how Vision sets Agnes free from Wanda's spell, almost identical to what he did with Norm. SWORD now sends another drone to locate Wanda, but this time they sent a drone from the 80s so that it doesn't shatter into pieces when it enters Westview, and successfully so they're able to locate Wanda. But notice just before Wanda destroys this drone, both of her eyes light up red. But that's not the detail here. Notice she also leans her head ever so slightly. Just like I said in my previous breakdowns, that whenever Wanda wants to harm or kill anybody, she tilts her head ever so slightly, and that's exactly what happened here. But then we come to know that Director Hayward had different plans. He didn't tell Monica that the drone was armed, so he commands another officer to shoot Wanda, despite Monica's resist. She was totally oblivious to the actual plan of Hayward. The more screen time Director Hayward gets, the more hostile he seemed to get with Wanda. I have a crazy theory regarding Director Hayward, so please make sure to watch that video once you're done with this one. Right after taking out this drone, Wanda for the very first time walks out of her pocket dimension into the actual reality. But notice as soon as she lives the make-believe sitcom life of Westview, all the vintage TVs stop broadcasting her sitcom, indicating there's a signal as long as Wanda is inside. When she isn't, there's no signal. Wanda then talks to Director Hayward and also addresses him as the director, so she knows who he is, and she simply gives a final warning to SWORD. I mean, this is just a beautiful scene. Seeing Wanda mind controlling so many SWORD officers and making them aim at the director is just Wanda then goes back inside Westview, and this giant energy field becomes red at the touch of Wanda. I literally got chills watching this scene. Immediately after came this commercial, where we see the same two children accidentally spilling a glass of juice on the table. The color of the juice is the same as Wanda's powers, like she used her powers to cause a mess in Lagos back in Civil War. Notice the juice is called Westview Juicery, and when the commercial shows us how good Lagos paper towels are, the drink this time represents the color of Vision's Mind Stone. It ends by saying,
"For when you make a mess, you didn't mean to."
which clearly is a nod to Wanda's mistake that took place in Lagos. Then the dog incident happens, and Wanda kinda gets the idea that she can even bring back her dead brother Pietro. But I see a lot of dissonance here. She's telling her kids to accept the dog's death, while she herself couldn't accept the death of Vision. And through this scene we learn again that Wanda is not in complete control of her children. She strongly asks them not to age up. But here's what I noticed. The twins aged up twice in today's episode, and both times Agnes was physically present in front of them and didn't get surprised at all. The fact that the twins only aged up in the presence of Agnes kinda tells me that she has something to do with it. Then we get a shot of Wanda's house from the outside. But notice the lights. The reflection is clearly red, while the light itself isn't. So maybe I'm getting physics wrong here. Or maybe Wanda is actually using her magic to light these bulbs up. Vision then confronts Wanda and screams at her for the first time. He tells her not to lie to him anymore, that he doesn't know who he was before he came to Westview. He has no memories of his previous life, which to be really honest is a scary thing to live with. But Wanda insists he doesn't want to know that. Wanda is really trying to roll the credits to get out of this argument. This is one of the most emotionally difficult moments in the MCU. They both get fired up, and there comes this scene, which if you stare at for as long as I have, you'll be able to figure out the letter M in the curtains. And why is that significant? Because this show is strongly based on the House of M comics. Wanda keeps telling Vision that she isn't in control of everyone in Westview, that she doesn't even know how all of this started in the first place, but Vision doesn't believe her. But I think she's speaking the truth, because there's someone ringing the doorbell, and Vision assumes that whenever Wanda is in a difficult situation, or whenever Vision tries to confront Wanda, there's always someone intervening and preventing them from having the conversation. But Wanda again says that she isn't doing this. In this scene, Vision just looks at her with such sadness and hangs his head because he thinks she has done it again to avoid him. Paul Bettany is doing so well in this series, they both are. I'm so glad Marvel gave them a chance to showcase their range as actors. So then she finally gets to the door and opens up, and surprise surprise, it is Quicksilver aka Pietro. But
she recast Pietro?
yes, the Pietro from the X-Men universe, the first crossover between these two universes after Disney's buyout of Fox characters. So this officially begins the multiverse, and if you're still not sure, just turn on audio descriptions on Disney Plus, and you'll hear the lady describing this scene, Wanda staring at the version of Pietro from the X-Men films. But I honestly don't think the Pietro that appeared was Wanda's doing. Wanda was really confused when Pietro appeared. She didn't recognize him at first. Everything else that Wanda is confused about or doesn't recognize or throws her off came from outside, like the helicopter, the beekeeper, or the radio in episode 2. They all threw her off immensely, or at least it seemed seem like it. And oh, when Monica and Darcy were discussing the Westview anomaly, Monica mentions an aerospace engineer.
I know an aerospace engineer who'd be up for this challenge.
The camera specifically focuses on her texting that aerospace engineer. Could this be the first lead to our very own Fantastic Four? I mean, Reed Richards did go into outer space to study cosmic radiation, and Westview is producing an ample amount of radiation. So could we see another superhero entering the story to investigate? Only time can tell. And that's it. This would be my breakdown of the 5th episode, and I hope I managed to tell you all the hidden details as well as the subtle clues that Marvel keeps dropping foreshadowing the future of the show. Now, if you'd please take a minute to visit my official Canadian Lad merchandise at the canadianlad.merchforall.com, I would really appreciate it. Please grab the subscribe button for more breakdowns and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Till then, I'll see you lads in the next one.
Terrorists.